Hello, this is Frank Hopf of Conserve Nassau, and I'm going to complete the session we started at the Story and Song back in October. Our topic was dunes, not just a pile of sand. We didn't get a chance to finish that. You can find the first two sessions on our Conserve Nassau website as YouTube videos. But this will complete it, and we'll finish up the discussion, which basically goes into how we can make sure Amelia Island does not become just another pile of sand. And so we've already talked about the history of our barrier island and its dunes in session one, basically. And in session two, we talked about how the dunes are good. Our dunes are very good compared to other dune systems around the country, but they're overrated. And we talked a little bit about why it became overrated through just a common mistake of purpose, if you will, of a tool, excuse me. So in this session, I plan to introduce our plan to do the two or three things we need to fix our dunes to make them perfect, if you will, or as near perfect as we can. We want, first of all, the dunes provide our only protection against storm waves. And unfortunately, we don't have the sufficient capacity, at least according to FEMA, to keep us out of our homes on the waterfront and our infrastructure on the waterfront out of the FEMA VE Special Flood Hazard Zone. This is a zone which FEMA has realized after essentially the attack of the dunes and the homes up in the New Jersey, New York area after Superstorm Sandy hit it, that the storm waves will ride on top of the storm surge, and they're capable of eating out the dune from underneath the house. And to protect, even though you got elevation for your home that's above the flood level, the waves will tear down the dune in front till they get to the home or the highway or telephone poles or sewer line, and are capable of taking them out. So back in 2017, FEMA sort of surprised us, and for the first time told about 40 or 50% of the people on the beachfront homes on Amelia Island that indeed they were in the FEMA VE flood zone, and that they needed insurance, particularly if they had a mortgage. We think we can take the entire area out of the VE flood zone if we develop our dunes with a sufficient volume to meet FEMA requirements and nature's requirements to do that. We want to do this by using natural and nature-based dune beach restoration methods that not only will allow us to build the dune volume to provide protection for our properties, but also develop and enhance and improve a beautiful special habitat for a variety of animals that the dune is a special place for them to spend at least part of their life, if not their entire lives. So we want to be able to, by using the methods we propose, we can enhance that, and in doing so, we can enhance our reputation as an island for its ecotourism, amount of animal and plant life people can see as they visit us, number of birds, sea turtles, and the like. The third thing is that we want to recognize the fragility of the Holocene dune. And we talked about the Holocene dune in the first and second sessions. It is a recent dune, the one that developed here in the last 6,000 years. We normally call it the Beachin dune. And it's the same, essentially, Holocene dune that extends through most of the Atlantic coast, and it is what people go to the beach to enjoy. It we have quite a bit on the island, and it's important because not only does the front part protect against storm waves, but the back part does things like protect against the saltwater intrusion from getting underneath the dune and into our freshwater supplies on the mainland and on the rest of the island. And also provides a home for in a high area for trees, the first trees, the ones that can, the kind of the pioneers, if you will, against the salt spray and salt wind. And those trees not only protect us from salt air intrusion inland, slow that down, which protects plants inland and also protects the homes and materials that we have in our homes. But it also helps control the winds and reduce the winds from the storm. I've always said that if you have a view of the beach from where you're standing, you also can be hit with the worst winds that a Cat 5 hurricane can deliver. If you can't see the beach, can't see the water, as your view is blocked by a dune or trees growing on it, then you will see reduced winds and not face the full fury of the storm. And then finally, we want to talk about beach accesses. Beach accesses can be very important, are very important to protecting the dune we're trying to develop, protect it as a habitat and as a barrier. But we also realize that some of the materials we've been using for our dune walkovers and some of our designs have not helped us. We've been building dunes walkovers out of essentially arsenic soaked wood for many, many years. And arsenic is water soluble, comes out. Plus that preservative does not extend the life of the beach walkover all that long, creating high maintenance costs and early replacement. And there are better materials out there now that we're trying to promote that will give us a total lower lifetime cost of owning a dune walkover. We also are worried about the beach access design, so we make sure that they don't damage the dune and indeed help promote dune growth and protection. And we talk about growing the dunes. This is again from the earlier show. This was a example of where we planted just 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, a couple of sea oats along the dune, and this is the dune that has developed the growth because of the vegetation and added greatly to the dune protection there. Okay, so how do we do it? Again, we're going to look at promoting dune planting and restoration efforts using native plants that we identify in the plan, and prioritize efforts in the plan to attack the most vulnerable areas. We're talking a bit about how the county is not equally vulnerable. Parts of the county, the dunes are quite strong, quite well vegetated, and protect against the 100-year storm waves. Other parts, not so much. So we want to work on the areas where we're still vulnerable, because if anyone floods, we all flood. We want to prioritize the dune walkovers and designs that help the most. Again, limited money for walkovers. The city and county have quite a few of them. There are a lot of costs. A lot of them need replaced right now. And we need to prioritize where we spend our money on walkovers, so areas where they will do the most good, again, for the habitat and for the protection and for access. We want to require sand fencing, have plants installed with them. Sand fences have long been a way of building a dune. They are effective, but if we can plant some native vegetation with them, we'll have a much more vigorous and robust system of dune creation. We'd like to develop some education programs for residents and tourists alike. More people know, more wisely they can take care of the resource. We'd like to see protections for more than legal protections for more than just sea oats. Florida is famous for protecting the sea oats, seeds, plants, everything from day one. It's been up to 6 months in jail if you're caught doing nasty things to sea oats. But there are other plants out there that deserve equal protection, and we're not trying to increase the population of the Nassau County jails. We'd just like to kind of emphasize that sea oats are just part of the equation. They deserve protection, so do the other native plants, because the only thing that can get them is people that are otherwise immune to everything else they face on the ocean. And we want to make sure we employ new technologies to survey so we can monitor our progress, and indeed, hopefully quickly tell FEMA that we've built our dunes up and we can move out of the flood protection or the flood hazard zone, and we don't need the insurance that you thought we did, at least for the risk that we're facing. And then we'd like to make sure we start guiding foot traffic across the dunes. People running all over the dunes and crossing in any direction damages the vegetation and inhibits dune growth, and we want to make sure when we do cross the foredune, that first dune out by the beach, that we cross it at a diagonal so that we still have sand facing the waves as they come in off the water. This is an example of why I'm not a real fan of sand fencing. The dune is a sacrificial animal, and parts of it will be scarfed or removed by storm waves. Just part of the way the dune system works. That's what they're there for. Too often we got these sand fences in there, they just get swept out to sea and become part of the trash we're going to clean up, just like these after Hurricane Matthew on our island. The plants, if we plant them, they don't do much good the first couple of years because they need to get bigger. But they, once they're established, will not only hold the sand together better than the sand fencing does, but they'll kind of hang on when the sand gets carried away, have the roots there, and they'll immediately start growing and in turn immediately start regrowing the dune after the storm passes. So to protect our dune habitat and develop the dune habitat, in addition, as we are growing its size and protective value, we want to carefully select and reintroduce native plants that will promote ecosystem restoration, and we'll do this with plants that require little or no input, no irrigation, no fertilizers, because the native plants are quite comfortable living out there in that harsh dune environment. We like to get the ones with the highest habitat value that provide the most food and shelter, pollen, whatever for the fauna of the dune, and also the ones that get along with one another, if you will, and support one another as plants do. And we kind of like to pick out some that have some physical attractiveness. Some of these are quite attractive and make the dune a quite beautiful place, so we can be very proud of, and people can be proud of. These are the 4 dune builders that we've identified. And again, you can plant just sea oats, but these guys all work together and will help be much more successful as a community as individual sea oats or a forest of sea oats. And then the plants that we plant in the dune behind the foredune, these are some of the more attractive ones that are native to our area that support holding the the dune together in case of a really big storm, and provide pollen for pollinators, food for the feed birds who fly through, and the rabbits and deer and everything else that live out, and gopher tortoises live on our dune. So the other thing we do want to do is improve our protections for the native fauna. Sea turtle protection, of course, we talked about, and making sure the lights are don't confuse the poor guys. But we also need to protect the seabirds and fly through here. Some of them nest here. Some of them just come in for a rest on some incredible 18,000-mile journeys every year. Poor guys need a little rest. They don't need to be chased around by dogs or children or crazy adults. So we need some additional protection for the native fauna. And then we also need to eliminate invasives and restrict their sale. And the reason why I talk about that is because most of these invasives here are things, at least on the left-hand side, are things that are pretty much introduced by people. Asparagus fern, attractive plant for a flower bed in Callahan. But as we get closer to the beach, it can get onto the beach, and there it's poisonous. The berries are poisonous. The roots are not deep enough. It crowds out other things that do belong there, and it's a terrible problem for our immune system. The callaloe, the so-called mother of millions plant, has been introduced. Again, something that you can pay $9-10 for on Amazon or eBay for your house, but if it gets planted in a dune where unfortunately grows quite well, it's from Madagascar originally. It has almost no root system. It propagates not by seeds, but by seedlings, and actually drops little plants rather than seeds. So the growth rate and spread can be very dramatic and very damaging. The Russian thistle is one that washes up ashore, introduced from probably somewhere in Ukraine or the steppes of Russia. How it got here, we're not quite sure, but it's a mean little plant. But the invasive raiders of the island have pretty well got it, at least for now, contained. And then the air potato is another one. It'll grow 7-8 feet in a day. I think it must be the model for the crazy commercial the insurance company shows of homeowners being attacked by plants in their yard. So we want to, if we can, again, a lot of these are introduced. They're things that people, some knowingly, mostly unknowingly, get out there onto the dune and choke out the native stuff, which we need both for the habitat and also for protection and holding the dune together. And again, it'd be good to continue, I think, promotion of the dunes and our beach as ecotourism sites, because indeed we have a beautiful ecosystem out there that a lot of people could enjoy, especially those people from the north in the wintertime, because it is a quite attractive system. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is protect the entire Holocene dune. And we've always focused on the front part of the dune. The state in the 1980s established the Coastal Construction Control Line program, which takes care of everything seaward of what was established kind of as the first 12-foot elevation coming back from the water in Nassau County. And so everything seaward of that 12-foot elevation line is protected or has to be approved by the State Department of Environmental Protection. They have not always worried about preventing wave attack. Again, the 12-foot elevation used to be envisioned as absolute protection against a 9-foot wave or 9-foot storm surge. But again, we've learned that the waves can tear apart these dunes and lay them to waste. And so we need to worry about wave attack also. So sometimes the state will approve things that don't really protect us as well as we'd like. State law also requires that local communities protect the entire Holocene dune as the coastal upland protection zone. And this is defined as 1,000 feet inland from the CCCL, or Construction Control Line, except on a barrier island, where it is defined as being almost about a mile inland from the CCCL. Now, a county can, or city can appeal to the state to only look at the as few as 2,500 feet on a barrier island, or about a half a mile. But they got to make that appeal. Unfortunately, the city has established just the 1,000-foot line, and we're not sure the county's established anything. So we've got to establish this protection zone for the Holocene dune, that first. And luckily, for our purposes, a half mile does pretty well work to protect the entire Holocene dune. This is a schematic of the Holocene dune. If you watch the earlier videos, or if there at the presentation, showed how the Holocene dune and the historic Pleistocene dune, which is the main part of the island, match up and how they look in profile coming across the island. This is kind of a schematic of it. Most of the larger dune is behind the CCCL, and this area that the coastal upland protection zone is important for the trees up there that again block the winds and block the sea spray, salt spray. They also provide a lot of the hydrostatic head in our water table on the dune to make sure seawater doesn't intrude underneath the dune system and get into our freshwater table on the island and mainland. And also this provides protection against the superstorm, if you will, the one we don't want to think about, but could come along. 100-year storm we've avoided that for 125 years, but there are bigger storms, 500-year storms, some of which can do more damage than we want to think about. But we got to be able to protect against it. So yeah, we need protections within the city of Fernandina Beach and Nassau County to ensure that our dune water table is protected. There's a lot of water in the dune. I showed this dotted line on that same sketch showing where the water table is. And it's pretty well close to the surface in a lot of areas. And perhaps this is understated. I climbed high on, essentially what's this back dune, this highest point. And climbed up on, this is Little Nana down in American Beach. I climbed up as high as I could. You can see where I turned around. Dune's not very stable, so it's hard to walk on it. And I dug a little hole there. And what I was trying to do is find the water table. It just took me about 4 inches to get down to the Vado zone, the area above the water table, which is water and air, which is exactly what the trees and other vegetation needs for water supply. So this water supply is extremely important to the dune system, and it's very close to the surface, and we need to be able to protect it for both the plants and for the keeping the salt intrusion out of the inland water table. We also need to protect our builders and engineers, and I'm an engineer, and there's a lot that's unknown about building on these extremely unstable, very young, unvegetated Holocene dunes. They just don't have the soil development. They haven't been there long enough. Little Nana and Big Nana have grown dramatically in just the last 50 years. Sand just moves around quite a bit because they're not stable, particularly if they're not vegetated properly. And so we need to develop standards. People are doing things that endanger themselves and endanger others in the way they try to maximize their property values. In the end, they'll destroy their property values if we don't help them understand the problems of building on those dunes. This is an example. This is at Little Nana. A house is going in behind the ridge there, exposed the site, and you can see how much trouble they had keeping the sand from blowing. Had to drive piles because they made it, trying to make a cut, and for the house to fit into, and indeed a very unstable slope. They're going to like to show this one little video here if I can. Apologies here. One of the hazards is the sand, as I mentioned, very fine and blown off the beach recently, at least by geologic terms and sometimes by anyone's terms. I can find this. Here we go. This is a video I shot there by the picture you saw just before. The contractor, to make his excavations to build this house, got into the dune to build this house on Little Nana, piled up the sand into a big pile, and with no way to stabilize the sand. And the coal came through. I think it blew about half the pile away. Bad for the property owner, because I imagine they were counting on that fill, or not that soil, that sand, to give them the elevation view that they so desired. It's gone. But downstream, you can imagine being sandblasted, your plants, your houses, your backyard, by sand being blown off an unstable, exposed, devegetated construction site. So we got to be very careful how we develop these sites, and especially on slope, and we try to mess with the slopes. This thing. So this is again that site. I believe this was after the sand blew out. This is one of the other things that we need to be careful of is a blowout. And this is a blowout also at Little Nana. There is the sand pile. This is a blowout that existed to the southeast of the job site. And I'll show you exactly how dangerous they are in a second. So Again, I mentioned earlier, the native trees in the hamlet provide protection from salt intrusion and protect us from hurricane force winds. This is a little sketch that the University of Florida put together. Cartoon showing, these aren't absolute numbers, but you can see that just a few rows of row of trees 30-foot high will deflect the wind and break it down and provide protection for anyone on the leeward side. That's pretty common thinking, but we don't think about it enough here. Everyone worries about trees getting toppled, but the reality is the trees are the ones that protect us from the worst of the hurricane winds. 30 miles an hour down to 9 miles an hour, that's nice for, just wanting to have a picnic. But it's even more important if it's 130 mile an hour wind, knocking it down to maybe 40 miles an hour. May save your windows, may save a lot of things. If we have those plants seaward of us. And they also trap the salt spray and keep bigger trees growing further inland, because the salt does stunt the growth of the trees that are exposed to it. So those first trees take the brutal damage, but then they protect those behind it. And we'll make sure we don't initiate blowouts. Blowouts are something that happens on a dune where we lose vegetation either due to flooding, storms knocks out the vegetation on the dune, and when the wind comes along, there's nothing to hold that sand in place. We start a erosion pattern purely the wind, and particularly on our steep slopes of Amelia Island, blowouts are quite common in nature. Now, in nature, they'll kind of heal themselves eventually, but we don't need to be initiating them ourselves, because they can do an awful lot of damage. This is that blowout on Little Nana I mentioned. The house there that was built probably 20 years ago probably contributed to it by kind of forcing the wind between Little Nana on the left, the height of it, which is about 40 feet high, and the structure there. And you can see the wind just kind of tore through there, removed all the sand. It's now going to grow where that sand pile was when it gets removed, and probably grow that way. Anyways, this is that house. Now, because of the blowout, it's exposed to wind erosion. This is not water erosion. This is wind erosion that's carved into the slope and threatened us if nothing else, the wall that protects the house. We have areas, and again, on the throughout the island where we've got blowouts or historic blowouts developed. Again, if we got vegetation, we're generally okay. These blowouts don't get initiated. And this is an area down in the plantation. Back in 2017, we had a great dune ridge here. This ridge is about 30 feet high, and the plants were 10, 15 feet high, and provided great protection for these condos behind it. Condos can, much like that house did, and these are like 7 stories. So you get the northeast wind coming in, and it can get channeled by the homes on the top of the hill, particularly if no vegetation to break up the velocity, as we mentioned. Someone came along and destroyed all the vegetation there. Not sure exactly what happened, why it was cut down, but it's gone. And so now we got a great risk of, this is a profile of the northeast wind pattern. And you can see it pretty steep there where the vegetation was taken away. And have a great risk for a blowout in that area. Because we've got a steep dune slope. We've lost vegetation along the run of the main wind pattern. And we got the tall buildings oriented to accelerate the wind. And we could easily duplicate the problem we're seeing down in Little Nana there in the plantation. And then the final thing we want to make sure we take care of in the upland protection zone is that we have adequate sand available to prevent washovers and new channel formation. Washovers are another thing, and where sand gets blown from the front of the beach into the marsh behind, or even worse case, where a new channel gets dug. And this is Topsail Island before Hurricane Fran hit back in 1996. See these homes sitting above the beach, high on the dune. Met them unhappy. And then storm waves came through, and several of the houses got washed into the marsh behind, creating a new channel. These channels can have historically been developed into the main channel, and the channel that used to be on the north or south of it gets abandoned by nature. And you can see the amount of damage that was done because it didn't have enough volume to protect this road when a really big storm came. My concern is on the Holocene Dune, our Holocene Dune, places like Access 16. We really don't have a whole lot of volume there behind the dune to protect us. So again, we want to protect the trees that protect us. Salt damage. Talked about that. For years, we've developed homes along First Avenue and Fletcher without damaging the dunes and the trees of the upland protection zone. Excuse me, coastal upland protection zone. This is a picture from First Avenue. Trees are in good shape. Homes are developed there without cuts or fills. Perhaps we need to bury the power lines. They're ugly. We've seen some recent damage by the power company to the trees along there, exposing their ugly poles and damaging the trees and protection that they provide us. Maybe we need to bury our power lines. Hate the sight of it. We need to eliminate cuts and fills that destroy the Holocene water table that provides water for the plants and the trees of the dune. This is a recent example of a cut into the dune to build a home. Not sure I want to be there. That you can see the trees were damaged. Those are trees that provide inland protection. Also hold this dune together. I imagine there's been an awful lot of pressure on that retaining wall. We used to not do this, but all of a sudden we're trying to maximize every inch of property in our developments, building mega mansions and where they don't belong. We need to preserve the vegetation on all slopes, prevent the initiation of blowouts and slope collapse. We've got a case coming up. Case coming up where two hotels along Sadler are being connected by a walkover, a ramp. The transverses part of the Holocene Dune slope. This is stabilized now by a lot of trees, you can see there. But if we try to build something there, we could lose the parking lot above and the slope and everything else. Okay. We don't want to remove any more sand from the dune system, particularly in low sand volume areas. All structures should be put on piles to assure stability. And the idea of piling sand up for recharging, it doesn't work with sand. It doesn't produce a more stable foundation. It does for you can pre-charge clays and silts, but sand that doesn't work and it ends up blowing away, as we mentioned earlier. And we need to be better with our beach accesses. We can do a lot of the stuff we want to provide in this plan with very little money. 80% just doing some planting and protecting. And controlling beach access routes, also not terribly expensive. But the last 10% of what we want to accomplish will require expensive dune walkovers for high volume access areas for the public to the beach. So we'd like to see better material selections based on lifetime costs. We need to prioritize better where we build our walkovers, and so that we can achieve our goal of getting the entire county out of the BE zone as quickly as possible. These are some of the high priority areas. Nassau County, down in American Beach, much of this is in the BE flood zone. A little bit of development dunes would get us out of there. Skip over there. I talked about the access 16, where we need to build our dune up a little more there to not only protect against storm surge and 100-year flood, but wash over in a 200-year flood or maybe 300-year flood, because we just don't have much sand in the whole system. One of the highest priorities in the city area is between Jasmine and just south of access 4, I guess it is. Here the BE zone actually crosses Fletcher and hits the homes on the other side. Second highest area of concern is the area north of Dolphin Island or Dolphin Avenue. Here we've got a whole dune. We talked about this a little bit in the first 2 sessions. The entire area behind it, though, is below 8 feet. And so if the dune, not only do we have to worry about the dune damaging the homes, or the floods damaging the dune and storm waves, I'm sorry. The storm waves damaging the dune system and the homes behind it, but the area then will flood and there's nowhere for the water to go. Third highest area of priority is then south of, right around American, right around Main Beach, south of there, where parts of the properties are in the BE flood zone, which is also true between access 10 and down to about access 18, where the homes are only half in the BE flood zone and Fletcher is safe. This is an area we'll have to skip over for time purposes. The area down south that has been proposed for a high-rise development, the dunes there are substandard to support development, to keep that area out of the BE flood zone. And so if it should get developed, we probably need to make sure that dunes are protected and growing down there. The good news is that, back in April of 2021, the city manager of Fernandina Beach authorized the Beach Access Committee to study the dune accesses. And they developed an excellent report on how to cost effectively build and maintain our beach accesses. Unfortunately, the report got put on the shelf and no one seems to be following it, but it's a great guideline, and our dune management proposal tries to bring out the most critical items that they recommended. And finally, yes, we give an example. This is one of the problems
kind of see with the way we're managing our dunes currently. The city of Fernandina Beach is in the process of spending over a quarter of $1 billion to build a walkover here at Access 40. This dune is in great shape. This access trail across the dune, the amount of traffic it handles is not damaging the dune at all. And to make matters worse, the plan I saw for the walkover would go through this clump of softball meadows, which are probably 30 or 40 years old, believe it or not. And then it terminates right about where my feet are here in this, I took this picture, right on top of the dune, for dune. So it's not going to help us protect a area at risk. It's not an area that dune's being damaged, and by its design, it'll probably do more damage than good, which is the case for several of the dune walkovers we built in the past couple of years, due to a elevation problem. The access 6 got built through the dune rather than over top of the dune. Luckily, when Hurricane Nicole came along, she piled up enough sand for us to block any flow of water from the ocean into Ocean Avenue. But of course, the city came along right immediately after and re-excavated and redeveloped the floodway that they had built accidentally. And this is another access point that's been built in the last couple of years. Unfortunately, this ramp is inconvenient for people carrying wheeled vehicles to the beach, which is quite common these days. So people walk right around it and do more damage to the dune than indeed if the walkover hadn't been there. And then a final complaint, here's the access at 16, currently under construction in December of 2023. We need sand here, we need the dune to grow here, and the dune wants to grow. These are coppice mounds and beginner dunes of developing out in front of this, the current dune that's inadequate. But unfortunately, we stopped the access way right here behind all this growth. And so people will come off the walkover right here and destroy any hope we have of providing a complete dune there at that location. It just doesn't go far enough. And this is the area we talked about earlier where we need more volume to protect against the washover or channel building. If we had a dune walkover that bridged that area, quite sure that we could easily grow a larger dune, provide more protection for both the 100-year flood zone, the VE zone, and for the monster storm creation. Again, talking about the wood that we use, this is a sign that goes on all the woods. It's advising us that our wooden dune walkovers are built a pressure treated EPA registered pesticide containing inorganic arsenic, and laying out all the damage that it can do to you and to the environment. In 2003, the EPA reviewed this material and its appropriateness for use. Unfortunately, at that time, there wasn't anything available that would work better. And so its use was allowed. It was banned from use in children's playground equipment because of the skin exposure problems. But in the 20 years since that ruling, new materials have been developed, and I hope we can move quickly to use them, because they also provide much longer life, require less maintenance, and just a much better option. This is a kind of the closing view relative to the walkovers. This is a scene from North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. after or during one of the hurricanes of, I think, 2020. You can see here that the dune did a great job of holding back the waves, but where the dune accesses, the beach accesses were routed through the dune, whether they be a walkover or just a path that goes straight to the beach. The waves flowed on through and flooded the area behind and created havoc. So this is the kind of thing we want to prevent with our dune management plan, and hope you will help us get it considered.